Before I met Jesus, my life was definitely divided in phases, whether it be just not knowing or trauma or poverty. It was always a lack of peace. I never thought I was safe, whether it be like carrying around guns everywhere I go or just always having to have somebody with me. And it came along with the things that that I used to do and stuff like that, but it was just never safe and never home, never that comfort of knowing that I'm home. God had definitely knocked on my door a couple of times. I would say that the first time he knocked on my door was when I had gotten into a car wreck on November 2nd, 2021. I had flipped 6 times on the highway and then came out untouched. And I also had illegal items in the car, and all that stuff was just wiped clean. I didn't, it was a high possibility of me dying, also going to jail. And so God was already showing me that mercy right there. But that didn't really have a big effect on me, just because, in that childlike, naive mindset, you're just like, okay, this is nothing. I'm gonna just go get right back and do what I'm doing, But when I came back, when I got out of jail and I came back home, that was when I completely disconnected from my family and got kicked out of the house and was living with friends, and then ultimately we all getting kicked out, and then ultimately having to live on my own. And that was probably I think that was the last time God knocked on my door, when he said, hey, you want to do it on your own? I'm trying to hear it, trying to help you, but you can go. After that, I was living in motels for quite a while, and I was working, because they're not cheap if you're gonna live in them. And so I was working high hours. I was working every day. I was in a motel with my brother, who is he's now in jail, and we experienced some very supernatural and yet physical things. It was like the devil's territory, and the spiritual realm just completely came to the physical and just manifested itself, and God was like, hey, you can either choose this or me. It's either death or life. And ultimately I came out of that situation okay, and I moved back into home, and that's when I started getting reconnected and trying to restart my life, basically. I kind of grew up in church, really young, and I could say that I knew Jesus at that age, the idea of Jesus, but I didn't know him personally. And then once I had that disconnect for so long and decided hey, I should get back in church, because I knew my foundation. My foundation was always there. So at heart, I knew Jesus. I knew who God was. I remember the first time the Holy Spirit touched me on the altar, where I was trying to just be prideful, still unknowingly. I was at the altar, and I thought it was corny to kneel to God, but I was still worshiping him with my hands up, crying or whatever. But then it was playing the song Something Has to Break. It came to a point where God literally made my legs stop working, and he made me kneel to him and face down on the ground. And that was just to this moment, I remember that day, and I'll never forget that day. I remember what I was wearing that day, everything about it. And from that point on, it was just, now I'm on fire. And then camp happened, and when I tell you, just the power and leadership here is amazing. And just fell under I feel like I came to God out of the fear of God, and then I fell in love with him. He showed me his fear, then he showed me his love, and then I was just latched on to the source then. Coming to Jesus isn't gonna solve all your problems, but it will give you an infinite solution. You think once you do it, all your problems are gonna go away, but they're not. When I came to Jesus, I started getting temptation that I already had, but it was a confidence now. It was a confidence that, hey, I don't have to carry this. This battle was already won for me. When I said, hey, Jesus, come into my heart. I believe in you. And so once that happened, I was I always had that confidence that no matter how bad my life looks currently, it's never going to be as bad as it was.